One night, when I was in middle school, I fell asleep in front of the TV and in the dead of night, through half-awake eyes, woke to this scene. On a bright and normal sunny day, a boy is struck by a car and killed. I had woken up during the Adult Swim programming block, which, if you're not from Freedom Town, Patriot Land, was many an American's gateway drug into anime, having a time slot on late night TV to show programs geared toward adults, such as Family Guy, Inuyasha, Cowboy Bebop, and more. I had just begun my addict descent into Japanese anime at the time, having watched and, of course, being a preteen girl, completely fangirling over Inuyasha. Hey, we all had our trash tastes as preteens, don't judge me. But unlike the bright, cheery moods and the starts of shows like Naruto and Dragon Ball Z, this show starts with sirens blaring, people crowding an unmoving body, and the central protagonist coming to terms with his death. Sure, maybe opening your anime this way now has been done to death, no pun intended, with more recent anime like Tokyo Ghoul and Re:Zero, but I don't think anyone could argue that Yu Yu Hakusho is not the trailblazer in anime for this now much more common trope. Even when I witnessed it for the first time that one fateful night, all the way back in 2002. So how can the first episode of one unassuming 90s shonen anime hold more humanity and guttural life lessons than the whole of a long shonen like Sword Art Online? Where so many shonen protagonists have tended to not be people's favorite characters due to being boring and falling into common archetypes, how did Yu Yu Hakusho achieve a main protagonist who is so real, so human, and even charismatic? And why at the end of the day is this 30-year-old shonen anime the peak standard to which I still hold all other shonens to now? I would never be able to find out the answers to these questions as my parents, for some crazy reason, prioritized me getting up for school instead of being able to stay up to watch late-night anime. So, the show was lost to me. That is, until 2020. During the time of COVID, without my work commute, I suddenly had a surplus of time, but sadly a lack of series on my watch list. After watching Breaking Bad for the third time that year, I decided as much as I love BB and the wacky chemistry adventures of WW, I really needed to find something new. And suddenly it came to me. That anime I had watched half asleep so long ago. Had that been a dream? I hopped onto the internet to research anime where a protagonist dies in the first episode, and the first result was Yu Yu Hakusho. Would I actually like this show, or was it my middle school addled hormone brain that would receive a hit of dopamine from just about any anime I watched at that time? Well, guys, the answer is this show holds up. And not only with me as a grumpy 30-something-year-old, it holds up in today's standards and in a lot of ways is still ahead of its time compared to other anime, in my humble opinion. The Yu Yu Hakusho anime aired in Japan from 1992 to 1994 and was manga creator Yoshihiro Togashi's first big hit. Yu Yu Hakusho premiered much later in the United States on Adult Swim in the timely year of 2002. We used to have to wait pretty long for our anime, boys and girls. With the first time slot being at 11 p.m., how did it go? Sadly, ratings did not meet the network's expectations. It is wild to me to this day that Yu Yu Hakusho did not take off in popularity during its initial run in the USA, especially since titles like Dragon Ball Z were taking American kid audiences by storm. But I think there are three big reasons why. For reason number one, a big part of the problem was with how much the show got moved around and the show's network, Cartoon Network, just completely dropping the ball on communicating time slot changes. So people would tune in to watch Yu Yu Hakusho just to be met with a completely different show like Family Guy.
Speed, I do not think you should be in this race, haha. The Mach 5 is not ready, haha.
But Pops, I must be in this race, haha.
Very well, but you know I am not really your father, haha.
Oh!
I remember being so disappointed on more than one occasion of tuning into the same time as last week, expecting Yu Yu Hakusho, only to be met with trash Adult Swim content like The Oblongs. Yeah, remember that show?
My big boy in the 4th grade. Seems like only yesterday I was wiping your poopy little fanny.
Yu Yu's run on Adult Swim contained all its swearing and gory glory before being unceremoniously moved to the kids' block of Toonami, which meant the show had to be heavily censored. The reason for this was because allegedly Yu Yu Hakusho was pulling in better ratings with the 6 to 11-year-old demographic. I don't know what this says about me because I still love the show. Unfortunately, continued poor ratings resulted in it moving back to a later slot on Adult Swim before finally finishing up its run at the highly coveted time slot of 5 a.m. in the morning. And with all these time slot change shenanigans, people would miss episodes before they figured out when its new broadcast time was, and by that time people would just give up as they couldn't follow the story anymore. Reason 2. Following behind Reason 1, Cartoon Network's anime cash cows were more easily digestible shows for children like Dragon Ball Z and Naruto, so Yu Yu Hakusho was left out to sea with little to no advertising. And Reason 3. The show with its themes and content had to be heavily censored when it moved to the child-friendly Toonami block. Yes, Dragon Ball Z also had censorship, but you could more easily spot what needed censoring. Yu Yu Hakusho's mix of mature themes, dialogue containing a generous amount of cursing, and more body horror and gore, all the good stuff, was a higher hurdle which required more work, and with the ratings as they were, the juice just probably wasn't worth the squeeze. And this was eventually the likely cause of moving Yu Yu back into its red-eye time slot. With all these changes and inconsistencies, Cartoon Network did Yu Yu Hakusho a bit dirty. However, I think Yu Yu Hakusho has seen a resurgence in a big way with streaming services, and not to mention the upcoming live-action adaptation on Netflix, which I am a bit nervous about if I'm being honest. So, what is Yu Yu Hakusho about? Yu Yu Hakusho is set in 90s era Japan and follows the story of the punk Japanese 14-year-old Yusuke Urameshi, who kicks ass when he's not in school. And he is never in school, in this show. Maybe for like 2 minutes total he's in school. How did they not send CPS to his mom's house, honestly? A slight detour here, I have to say this, please bear with my Japanese language nerd side for a moment. Yusuke's last name is Urameshi, and they say Urameshi in the dub.
Urameshi.
I don't know how they got the main character's last name wrong, and it's doubly funny to me because meshi in Japanese means meal, so it sounds like people are saying, "You're a meal," when they say his last name. The more you know. Anyway, Yusuke Urameshi is dead. Run over by a car after trying to save a kid who ran out into traffic. Yep, that's it. Roll credits. Unlike that overused last joke, this show does not waste time. Yu Yu Hakusho is not Dragon Ball Z. No screaming for ages, no plodding along, and no filler. Yusuke is dead. But Botan here, the frankly way too upbeat to be British Grim Reaper,
Botan's my name, the pilot of the River Styx,
comes to offer Yusuke another chance at life given he passes a trial. Of course, like Itadori given the death penalty, like Naruto being shunned from his ninja village, Yusuke triumphantly grabs at another chance to get his life back no matter what the cost. Everything will be okay if we just believe it! Right? No, he doesn't. Unlike other anime protagonists, Yusuke does not just go from challenge to insurmountable challenge with unbridled enthusiasm. Like an actual person, he shows fear and doubt against what a lot of the time is a horrible situation, and even here, he is ready to throw in that towel. The very first episode makes it clear that Yusuke is very unhappy with his life. His mother, a drunk, and it's suggested that she sleeps through the day and goes out at nights. To do what? We never get a complete picture. She doesn't care when Yusuke plays hooky, and we get some very harsh words from her when he skips school and goes home.
Well, if you're never going to go there, you might as well quit and get yourself a job.
Are you gonna give me a lecture too, Mom? While you're in your pajamas?
Dear, if you hate preaching so much, you should live on your own. But you can't do that, can you?
This is such cutting yet realistic dialogue between a son and a mother in a broken home situation. Taking the fact that shonen anime barely ever have dialogue between protagonists and their mothers at all, and top that off with how you can feel this is a conversation that has probably happened between people in this situation in real life. This scene also establishes so well who Yusuke is and what kind of relationship he has with his mother through just one short interaction. I am seriously impressed with the dialogue in this anime. We never meet Yusuke's absent father through the entirety of the show, but we know he's alive because of the manga. What's more, Yusuke doesn't have friends, he's failing school, some teachers hate him to the point of sabotaging him, and to add insult to injury, the one heroic sacrifice he made leading to his death turned out to be completely in vain.
well, the driver would have veered to the left. In other words, your death was a complete and utter waste.
While most of Yusuke's peers feared or loathed him, a gang from another school run by their leader Kuwabara shares a petty rivalry with Yusuke, always challenging him to a fight, but always ends up losing. And that leaves Yusuke's one and only classmate who talks to him, Keiko. Close since childhood, but frustrated by his antics as the classroom president. Feeling he has nothing and no one to live for, Yusuke essentially tells Grim Reaper Botan that he's done, that nobody would care if he was gone, and in fact they'd probably be better off without him troubling their lives. So he's basically said he wants to die. But Botan very wisely tells Yusuke to at least go to his funeral wake before he gives her his final decision. Many of his peers and teachers are visibly laughing at his funeral, which is really messed up if you think about it. But Keiko cries for his death, and Kuwabara makes a scene wanting to fight the only rival he looked up to, and the only one he could never beat. Some snotty teachers badmouth Yusuke, but perhaps the only good adult role model Yusuke has had, Principal Takanaka, comes in to lecture them at their crass and heartless words during a funeral. His private words to Yusuke is that while he knows Yusuke may not have been the best person in life, he always believed in his potential had he applied himself. And it's a beautiful sentiment to know that someone believes in you, even when they know your biggest flaws. In contrast to their cold and final conversation earlier, his mother wails with grief. Her mourning is heartbreaking. But the biggest surprise is having the boy he saved and his mother come to pay their respects and show their gratitude, which is a powerful scene. It really closes a big loop on minor characters we often overlook in story progression, which they could have easily been forgotten in lieu of showing the reactions from just the main cast. It's here, at his death, that Yusuke realizes that yes, while there are many terrible things, terrible people in life, people who seemingly live to only cause you misery, the few that had mourned him, even people he never expected to show up and grieve him, far outweigh those others who are only there to push you down.
Have you ever not known about something that seemed obvious to everybody else?
That happens to us all, I think. So are you ready now?
Yeah, I am.
Good to hear. Now let's not waste any time and get this baby started.
And with that, Yusuke chooses to fight for his life back. I know this video has only been about the first episode of this silly little shonen anime, but this is such an impactful and emotional roller coaster of a first episode, so I wanted to give it the full time and reflection that I think it deserves. For the very first episode of a show to have a main character who's done with life and thinks that he has nothing and nobody to live for is so sad. But so many people go through that every single day, and it's so relatable. Watching this episode of Yu Yu Hakusho and its in-your-face message of there is something to live for it's very powerful. Something or someone is waiting for you, even if it doesn't feel like it. And maybe it's not even right now, but in the future after you've overcome your own trial. This is a human shonen anime. I could make a full essay about the show and the impressions it's had on me, but I wanted to get this episode out before the live adaptation of Yu Yu Hakusho on Netflix, which I will be watching to see if they can capture the spirit, of the show. This is my first video essay, and if you like this and you don't mind, it'd be lovely to hear from you with a comment, or if you can like or subscribe, if you can. Maybe we'll call this part 1 for now, and if you guys want me to continue, let me know. I love this show, and any excuse to watch it again would be fine by me. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day, and I mean that.